Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we look at all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I want to do another rate the something, and this time I'm going to do RTS games. Now, a couple things I should probably point out: this is not every single RTS game I could have played. Sorry, there are more. There's a massive list of things. There's a bunch of games in here that I probably have played, and there's a bunch of things on here I haven't. But I kind of decided to just pick the ones where I have most experience playing. Also, on top of that, some of these games have their expansions, some don't. I'll get to each one individually if it does have an expansion. But yeah, some of them are going to incorporate the expansions. Some of the expansions might just improve the game that much more. And yeah, so on and so forth. So here's a selection of RTS games I've played, some of my favourite RTS games, and we're going to essentially go through these now and list them. And I've got best RTS, like fantastic, should probably play a good, great RTS, fun RTS but not amazing, and not great RTS, and I don't bother with. So let's start off with something that's not so great. Army Men RTS. While I like the RTS series, Army Men RTS is not a great game. I'll be honest. It's a bit simple, and I mean I kind of get it because of who it's designed for. I remember it, like the first time I played it having fun. The second time I played it, not so great. It's been a while, but it's just not that much of a great game. I really wouldn't, like maybe check it out, but if it's like dirt cheap, I wouldn't normally bother with it. It's not amazing. So unfortunately, Army Men, while you are a franchise I like, your RTS game is not great. Okay, what should we go with next? Empire Earth. Do you know what? I'm going to put that in great RTS. I haven't played Empire Earth in years, but I remember really enjoying it. Now, weirdly enough, I much prefer Empire Earth to Age of Empires. Age of Empires, by the way, is not on this list. For simple reasons, I didn't enjoy it. And that might be a bit weird because Empire Earth is very similar in gameplay, but I genuinely liked Empire Earth. I'm not the biggest fan of the that many resources. That's the problem with these games. They have too many resources, too many upgrades, all that stuff. But nostalgia on this one says to me that that's a pretty solid game. I really, really liked it. I never played the expansion, so I'm not including the expansion in this one. But I need to see if it still holds up, but I remember this being really good. I think a lot of people liked the second game, but I never played the second game. But would say, hey, Empire Earth, get that cheap. That's a fun game. However, where are you on my list? Empire Earth 3. Don't bother with this game. This game is awful. I can't believe how bad that game is. Empire Earth 3 is a game that just has really annoying voiceovers, some cool ideas in it, but it just doesn't work. The gameplay is not that fun. I got it for like £5 back when I got a physical copy of it, and I still own a physical copy of this. Don't waste your time with it. It's rubbish. It just isn't very fun to play. It doesn't have the same charm as the first one. It doesn't feel as... it feels way more confusing. Like I said, the voiceovers are absolute they're just atrocities in there. It just doesn't have the same kind of enjoyment that I was expecting from it. And for the time it came out, I thought it would be much better. But man, it is awful. It's really not a lot of fun to play at all. Like I said, cool ideas with the map and the different teams you can play as, but yeah, really scaled back on a lot of things and just didn't... It wasn't a budget title, but it definitely didn't have the same kind of love that I think some of the other games may have had in it. Right, Command & Conquer. Stick you in there. Yes, I've been playing Command & Conquer Remastered. I think this game is fun, but it's not amazing, and that is obvious because of how old it is. I think Red Alert actually improves in a few things that make Red Alert a much better RTS. But Command & Conquer is a solid game. But, by the way, I'm including the expansion. I could have put the expansion on here, whether it is gone there. But it's just mostly a mission pack. So, fun game. The remastered version of it specifically has skirmish and stuff and has a decent active online and things, so that's good. But, yeah, it's very old, and you can tell that. And, yeah, it looks nice in the remastered version, and it's definitely the foundations of a very good series. But I don't think it necessarily holds up that well compared to some other games. So I think the later Command & Conquer games are better. I think this one is a really good start. It's definitely not a great RTS because again it's very basic in a lot of ways, and there are like the AI isn't amazing in it, and there's like a couple of strategies, but it's fairly straightforward. For its time it's pretty good, but yeah, not amazing. And in fact, we'll stick Tiberian Sun next to that. And by the way, these again, they're only ordered in these. Like, I'm not saying Command & Conquer is better than Firestorm, Tiberian Sun again, Firestorm included. I can't really remember what Firestorm added, so that's kind of why I haven't put Firestorm on here. That might make the game even better. But Tiberian Sun, I like Tiberian Sun, but oh my god, it's one of the slowest and for me one of the more forgettable Command and Conquer games. It really isn't that great. Like, again, I think that again would benefit from a massive remaster. Like, it's got a lot of modern day or more modern things I like about it. I like the fact that both GDI and Nod feel very different in it. Again, I wish I remember what the expansion added, but like, it's a solid game. But I've never ever been able to make my way through it. One day I want to, if they remaster this one, I want to make my way through it and complete it. I don't know what, you know, make the game look a little bit nicer. It doesn't need the, it needs the treatment the Command & Conquer and Red Alert got. So, fun game, very slow though. It's a very slow RTS, and even when you put the speed up, it still feels very slow. So I can't really recommend that one as much. Okie dokie, let's go for something a bit different, shall we? Stronghold. Great RTS. I love the first Stronghold. I'm absolutely terrible at it, but I think the game still looks really nice. It's got a fantastic single player. It's got extra modes where you can do like castle sieges, you can siege a castle or defend it. Really, really, really good game. I love the medieval setting. Not all the Stronghold games have been great. In fact, as the series has gone on, it's probably gone downhill. But the very first game, it still plays really well. It's just a really cool castle sim game. You know, it has the, you're not just like building units and that's it. No, you've got to set up the food production. You've got to set up the, you know, getting people to make weapons, and then you have like a market where you can sell things, getting stone, getting iron. Like, it really, it's just, for its time, is really good. It's a really good game, and like, I think this is just awesome, awesome fun. It's one of the better RTS games I've ever played. Again, I'm not great at it, but I love the fact that it really like lets you kind of build the castle how you want. You can, there's a lot of stuff in this game, like traps and tar pits and different unit types and everything. Like, really, really good game. So Stronghold up there with Empire, really fun, really, really good game. Definitely recommend. Let's chuck up. See, I've got both the Star Wars ones here. Let's put these together. You know what? Like, because that adds an extra race, an extra team. I really like this game, and primarily the space battles. The ground battles are alright. Like, they're not awful like some people think they are, but the space combat is awesome. The fact you get to like build the ships, put the ships on, fly around, dogfight, take points and stuff. The expansion adds the corrupted guys, the smugglers. I can't remember too much about them because I haven't played them a huge amount. I normally just play the rebels, which I love, like the designs of the ship. Star Wars, like the theme of this game is awesome. The way this game plays is solid, and I love the way the space battles. You know, you're building up these. You're building up fighters, you're building up bombers, and then you can build up to higher capital ships, and the armies get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can call in like Slave One and the Millennium Falcon, and you know, the different heroes from the games and things, and it just plays really well. Like, absolutely awesome game, like really, really fun. Definitely recommend. You know, if you get a chance to play this, even if it's just the first one, not the expansion, the first game's so good. Like, it's just such a good game. Every unit feels like, you know, that everything has a use. It's cool watching the TIE fighters and X-Wings fight with each other and stuff like that. Like, just good single player as well, where you're trying to take over different planets and fight back the Empire. And the Rebels play differently because the Empire has so many different like Star Destroyers and stuff. Like, really cool game. And like the Rebels obviously made up of different factions and things, so it's like, yeah, this is great. Alright. Okay, let's go to Dawn of War. I'm gonna put Dawn of War. Should I put the expansions on there as well? Do you know what? I'm going to do this, and I can't read that one, but that expansion, I forgot what it's called. I'm going to put Soulstorm, and I'll just tell you what, I'll put Winter Assault here. No, you know what? We'll get rid of Winter Assault, because Winter Assault adds the factions, but it primarily plays the same. I wish I could remember what this one was called. Yeah, dark thingy. Whatever it says on that one. I'm actually going to put Soulstorm here. So why have these in a different place? So the original game and this expansion add the best races and the mode where you have to like take over the map and stuff. Really, really, really fun. Actually, quite a difficult RTS from what I remember. But for the first Dawn of War game, I really like the way it works. You capture the points, You keep hold of those points. Each team plays very different to one another. I like to play Space Marines and Orcs, but this adds obviously the Necrons and stuff, and they have very, very different playing mechanics to like the Tau or like the Eldar and whatnot. Soulstorm is good, but it really, like, the balance is just all over the place. I mean, to be honest, the balance in these games isn't incredible, but this game just feels... I didn't like the single player in it. I liked the fact that it adds more factions, but yeah, in comparison, these are the expansions I'd borrow. Winter Assault you can include in this as well, just because it gives you the Imperial Guard and they're fun to play. But it's a kind of RTS where you build up stuff, you have to capture... You have capture points, and I think you have population. I think those are the two... resources basically, so it's kind of like fighting over points and whatnot. It can be quite a tough game, honestly. It is quite a tough game, but I really like it. I think the Space Marines, to be honest, are really broken. If you get a Land Raider, it's like, it's over. You're just going to destroy stuff so fast. But the expansion here that added in the map thing where you can play as the different teams and go around the map and try and take people out and stuff, really, really fun. I really like like I said, the way they play it. It's a bit of a slower RTS game, but fairly decent. Alright. Where are we going next? Where are you? There you are. Spring Commander. You know what? Supreme Commander's going in there. Like, now I haven't played this in a while, and this probably includes the expansion. I never played the expansion. I do own it. I remember this game just being really fun, and all three teams being very different. This is like a better... It's like a more modern version, we'll say, of Total Annihilation. It's all about zooming out, making ginormous armies, and just slapping everything together in the middle of the map and having a giant fight. Big super weapons, like crazy things. Just a really, really fun game. It's definitely one of the best RTS games I've ever played, for sure. There isn't much I don't like about it. It is a slower RTS. If you're not into slower RTS games, then it's probably not for you. But I love the fact that this is all about building up massive, massive armies. You know, the units will have different abilities. Someone's got like rockets and artillery, and then building bigger units and getting loads of fighters and bombers, and you just have these massive fights in the middle of the map and stuff, and it just feels really good to play. It's straight up just like really, really, really fun to play. Forged Alliance will probably be up there as well. I never played it, but I'm sure it adds a lot of content to the game. It's probably really, really good. Alright, I am going to put... Ooh. Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. This is basically a reskinned version of... You know what, actually no, I'm going to put you down here. It's a reskinned version of Age of Empires. Now, I actually prefer this to Age of Empires simply because of the theming. The fact that you can play as like the Gungans and the Republic and the Imperials. Like, there's a lot of stuff I like about this game, but again, with Age of Empires, I just find that those games, I don't know, I just don't know why I don't like them. I think it's the fact that there's too many resources, there's too many upgrades, there's too many units you need to do. Like, I wish those units had... Because everything has a specific role. Like, these are very good against buildings. These are very good against light infantry. These are very good against heavy infantry. And there's just so much stuff to remember. And I'm like, yeah, I want to know what's good against. You know, like with Command and Conquer, it's like, this is a tank. It's good against the tank. These are machine guns. They're good against infantry. You know, and I don't want quite as much variety as this game gives me. It's not awful, but I definitely think it's more the theme that I like to enjoy about this game than it is the actual gameplay. So if you like Age of Empires, you'll like this. If you don't like Age of Empires, you probably won't like it. That's the best way I can describe it to you. It's a game you should not bother with. Command & Conquer 4, terrible game. One of the worst RTS games I've ever played. Not the worst. Age of Empires 3 is definitely worse. But yeah, I enjoyed when I first played it, and I like some of the things they're going for in it, but the rest of it's just rubbish. The story's terrible. The way the game actually plays, where you have one mobile construction vehicle and then you have to like kind of build those units, it just has a leveling up system. There's so many things that are just wrong with it. If it was an online only game, it would have been much better, I guess. And if it didn't have the Command & Conquer tag to it, I would enjoy it, but sticking that name on it, there's a certain expectation, and this game did not live up to it. Especially when, where has it gone? This and this exist. Command & Conquer 3 is one of the best RTS games ever made. It is flipping awesome. I love this game. It is hard. I don't like the screen so much, but GDI and Nod, awesome, awesome, awesome. One of the best expansion packs I've ever had the pleasure of playing in Kane's Wrath. Really good single player content. Really cool way to mix up the factions. You can play GDI, you can play Nod, or you can play sub-factions of them that have... They lose some units but gain other ones. You got like the Cyborg one and the Flamethrower one, you get the Black Hand. And then the GDI get like the Steel Talons and Zocom, or Zcom, whatever they're called. Which the game's just really, really solid. You've got your upgrades, you've got units, you've got each team plays very differently. Like, I don't mind the screen, but I don't like them I much prefer the whole Nod versus GDI stuff. I always like that. Fantastic games, really, absolutely cannot recommend them enough. You can go get them, they're not expensive. You want to play some of the best RTS games ever made, these are it. It just does everything at the time that the game needed to do. Also quite difficult, so... alright, I think it's time to put a June game on here. Stick you there, actually. Not that it's ordered, but I just like... June 2000 plays... In fact, you know what? We're going to stick... where are you? Red Alert and all the expansions are also going here. These games are very, 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 very similar. Because June is kind of just a reskinned version of Red Alert. Basically plays the same way. Different aesthetics is why I prefer it. I think Franklin Packy also did the music for June 2000, which is why I like the music in it. But these games, to me, they are basically the same game with just a different lick of paint. I like them both. I think they're both really good. I think Red Alert is a big improvement over Command & Conquer. The getting money works the same, but it doesn't take half as long. The truck turns up, dumps the money, goes back out again. Whereas in Command & Conquer, it stays there and slowly puts money into your refinery. It feels a bit more balanced. The teams feel very different, which I like. Obviously, it was originally going to be an expansion for Command & Conquer, but became its own thing. A lot of content with all the expansion packs for that. Counter-Strike, Aftermath, Retaliation, I think, was a combination of them all. But yeah, I really like Red Alert, and June 2000, I love the June series, I love the books, I love this game. I like the fact that you've got the 3 different teams. Not much difference between them, there's a few minor differences, but June 2000 is still fun, if not a bit difficult. A lot of mods and stuff for both these games as well, so there's a lot of support for them still. Very easy to get hold of and play nowadays as well. Absolutely recommend them. They are a bit on the slower side, a bit more on the simpler side in a lot of ways, but yeah, love both these games. Fantastic. Right. Grey Goo. Where are you going to go? You're going to go here. Grey Goo I actually do like. Is it the most groundbreaking RTS to come out in a while? No. I find the game is pretty solid. One of the teams where you play as, I forgot what they're called, but they all have South African accents, is a really, really fun team to play. The only problem with this game is, like, I feel like it's trying to do this thing that Total Annihilation does, where as long as you've got more money coming in, you can build way more units. Like how Total Annihilation is, like, as long as you've got higher energy, higher metal, you can build as much as you want as long as that bar's over what you're using. But I don't feel like the units really make a blind bit of difference. It's like, just get a group of stuff, run them in and go and attack. Like, you need something that can detect, you need something that can do anti-air. Everything else is kind of like fair game. It doesn't feel like that, and it's weird. There's 4 teams in total. You've got the I feel like Alpha or the Beta. I think they're called the Beta. Really, really fun to play. You got the humans, which is just really strange because there's no like humans. You don't see them at all. They're like kind of robotic. You've got the Goo itself, and then you've got these other race that they added in later. I actually do like the game, but it's straight up, it's not that amazing. Like, it's fun. It's got a fucking awesome soundtrack. Like, Frank Lepacki did it again. Really, really good soundtrack, but I like the fact that all the teams play different. I just don't feel like the units have as much impact as they possibly could, and they don't have that much character to them, except for the Beta, who I think are really cool. I do like the super units that they all get. Like, they build this massive, like, nuclear truck thing, which is awesome, like, floating platform or something. I can't remember exactly, but you can get it on the cheap. Would recommend it. Is fun. Alright. Populous to the beginning. Unfortunately, I don't like this game very much. I just find it a bit boring, if I'm honest. I think this is gonna maybe some people that like. I mean, my housemate really likes Populous. I don't. I find it a bit boring and a bit bland and not that much variety. The best thing about it is the spells. But like, I mean, I haven't played it in a while, but I don't know. I just didn't find it that fun. I think that had an expansion as well. It's a cool concept. I'd love to see a modernized version of Populous for sure. That's like straight up similar sort of thing. But yeah, not really for me, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It's yeah, a bit too slow, which is ironic because Command & Conquer and Red Alert and Tiberian Sun are also slow, but I just prefer the theming of them. I prefer the way those games work, whereas Populous, I don't really like the whole, like, spells and, you know, stab like caveman kind of thing. Doesn't really do it for me, you know, so if you like that kind of idea of doing, like, raising land, lowering land, causing volcanoes and using natural disasters as powers, then definitely for you. Worth a try. Okay, what else have we got on here? Warcraft 3. You know what? I'm going to stick Warcraft 3 in Best RTS. This also includes the expansion. I can't be bothered to put both on there. Expansion has new campaigns and stuff. The original, I'm not talking about the remastered, the original Warcraft 3 is a very, very good game. One of Blizzard's probably second best RTS game they've ever made. It was a huge improvement over the Warcraft 2 game. It also added in a lot of content in the way that you have heroes and things that work really well in the game. And it also had an amazing storyline. Great cutscenes, great storyline, 4 different teams you could play as. The expansion expanded on that, pushed the story forward. Really, really good RTS game. Very, very solid. Would recommend, absolutely. Definitely play it. Where are we going next? You know what, let's take Warcraft 2 next. Let's take Warcraft 2. Warcraft 2 is gonna go in... not great. That is probably gonna upset a few people. I know this game is a huge nostalgia hit. We did this for the channel. There are things that I like about the game. I would just rather play Warcraft 3. I think because Warcraft 3 exists, it is such leaps and bounds over Warcraft 2. The pathing in Warcraft 2 is awful. It has very similar problems to StarCraft, and because of that, it's interesting to go back and play it and experience like where they were and where they are now. But it really, like, I don't have that much fun playing with it. Again, it doesn't feel like... It feels like a very good, like, early stage for the for Warcraft 3, which really improved on Warcraft 2 in every way. Like, better voiceovers, more... The units have more unique skills and all that. Like, it has the beginnings of that, but Warcraft 3 really is a much superior game. And the campaign's really bland, because you're just basically island hopping a lot of the time, so it's not that great. Alright, let's grab StarCraft, and we should put StarCraft here. This also includes the expansion. I don't know if it's on this list or not. Yeah, we'll just stick Broodwar there. Again, another game that, like, I really enjoyed growing up, but it's definitely fun, but has the same problems with Warcraft 2 in a lot of ways. People already know my feelings on this game. Really good story mode, fantastic story, one of the best in RTS, but the pathing is a bit crap. The not being able to pick more than 12 units, not being able to, like, do a lot of the more modern things definitely makes it hard to go back to. The expansion is also really, really good, though. It adds a few extra units and more story. Honestly, it's a very solid game, and I would recommend playing it for a single player game and having fun with that and learning the story and playing through it. Actually really good. But in comparison to some of the other games on this, not as fun to play, or it just has a few frustrations that I personally have with it. So for me, StarCraft is going to sit here. Definitely, unfortunately, not that good. You know what, Aatrox, if you've never heard of this game, you know what, I'm going to stick Aatrox right next to StarCraft. Oops. Aatrox is basically StarCraft, but with a few extra, like, modernizations. The problem is it has very little personality. You're essentially playing as Terran, Zerg, and Protoss. It's one of the craziest rip-offs I've ever seen. I need to do a video on it because it's actually kind of fun, but it lets you do a few things that you couldn't do in StarCraft. It just doesn't have the same polish and the same kind of, you know, Blizzard money behind it at the time. Or it probably came out later, but it just doesn't... It has issues. But I think you can select more than 12 units, I think, and I think you can rally, and there's like a few things that... If StarCraft had what Aatrox had added in... Alright, if they went back, and this is why Remastered is not on this list, by the way, because I fucking hate Remastered. But, like, if the stuff that Aatrox had that was in here, then it actually would be way higher on this list, because it just added the right things. But yeah, basically, it's essentially, if you've played StarCraft, Aatrox is the same, less money behind it. All the 3 teams play differently, but they are essentially Protoss, Zerg, and Terran. They have just slightly different unit sets, but it is pretty much the same game. So yeah, it's fun. Not an amazing RTS, though. Alright, Stronghold Crusader. You're gonna go in one below Stronghold. Why? Stronghold Crusader is actually a good game, but I don't like the fact that you're in the desert, and that means you have way less room to build stuff, especially food. You really have to fight for it. It's a much harder game. Stronghold Crusader is a much harder game. It adds a lot of cool new units. It adds a lot of factions where they can't. Each of the AIs you play against has a different mentality. It's probably non-canon because you basically in the first game kill off a lot of the AI that you can play against in this game. It's very much like a single player, like very hardcore, you know, micromanagement version, even more so than the original Stronghold. It is fun and I do enjoy playing it, but I just in comparison, I think Stronghold's got better music. I think Stronghold has a better theme, is medieval. I think the desert thing is just frustrating. I like the fact they added a bunch of new units in, but I don't like a lot of the maps, and that really is a kind of a problem when you're playing an RTS. If the maps are a bit poo, you're not really that interested in playing on a lot of them, and it's fun to play unbalanced games, like a couple in the middle surrounded by other people and like trying to fight them off. Like there is fun to be had in this game, but I'm going to say get Stronghold over Stronghold Crusader. I don't think I added any of the other Stronghold games on this list. No, I didn't. I have played Stronghold 2, I have played Legends, I have played Stronghold 3, I played Crusader 2. The thing is, I haven't played them enough, or I haven't played them in a very long time, that I can't really remember them. I think Stronghold 2 was pretty good, but I really cannot remember much about it. Stronghold Crusader 2 I didn't like at all. And Stronghold Legends I played maybe once, like one game, and I know I added like dragons and stuff, so I cannot speak to those. There are other, I'll go over some of the ones that are on this list afterwards and kind of go through that. Alright, June 2. June 2, as much as it is near and dear to my heart, June 2000 by the way is basically a remake of June 2. This is this is basically what like a lot of RTS games were based on. It's not to say it was the first RTS, but this is like the modernizing of RTS games. There is a lot of nostalgia for me. I watched my older brother play this when I was growing up, but this is a game that while June 2000 exists, there's not really any point playing. It is very old. You have to click on a unit and click to attack, click on a unit, click to move. Like, it's very old. I would say if you're interested, go and watch gameplay of it. It's fascinating seeing what it was like at the time. I still really like play it now and again, but man, does this game old is so old. I'd love to see it like, I mean, I kind of just prefer June 2000 to get a remake or a remaster, but I'd love to see something like with June 2 with all these modern mechanics and stuff, but that's kind of what June 2000 is. I just go and watch gameplay of it, you'll see what I mean. It's got like so many things you wouldn't want to play. You've got modernized standards, it doesn't make it as fun. But yeah, interesting game. It's cool to look back on that one. Oh, World War 3, Black Gold. Where am I going to put you? I actually did have fun with this game. I haven't played it in a very long time though. You know, I think that's a bit harsh. I think World War 3 was actually fun. I think the problem was, this is like, again, a very slow game, and I never got that far into it. You know what, actually, I'm going to take this off the list, because I haven't played it in so long, I can't remember. Like, it really has been that long. I remember having fun with it, and it's the same people that did the Earth 2060 games and all that, but like, yeah. I remember it being fun, but let's just move on. Dark Reign. Not great. I think Dark Reign is very similar to Command & Conquer. I played it more recently, so I played it like the beginning of this year, and it's all right. Not much I can say about it except that there's different. It's got. I think I've got the one with the expansion. There's a few different teams. That's kind of cool, but it didn't really jump out at me. Didn't really have much of a personality. Like, actually ran pretty well, but to be honest, this is the game you want to play. I really like Dark Reign 2. I really like the fact that there was both teams. It doesn't look great, I'll be honest. Graphically, it looks pretty horrible now, but you've got the JDA and the Brawlers, I think they're called. I always play as the Brawlers, personally. But basically, interesting story. Set before Dark Reign, I believe, because it sets up some of the stuff that happens in this. But I really like the way the teams are very, very different. I like the fact that it's a 3D map. You've got different boats. You've got the air stuff, you've got the ground stuff. Everything is good against something. Usually, I think you get an idea of what they're good against, or like they're good for shielding. Like I said, it doesn't look great. A lot of the effects look a bit naff. Remember the soundtrack being pretty good. Tough game, if memory serves right. But I actually really like Dark Reign 2, and it's a game that I need to go back and play at some point soon, and actually finish. Because a lot of these RTS games, I never finish the stories. I did with Command & Conquer. I did with Warcraft. Didn't do a Supreme Commander, but Dark Reign 2, I think is actually pretty good. If you can get that one on the cheap, I'd recommend it. It's pretty fun. Red Alert 2 is going up here. Ooh. And so is the expansion. The expansion adds so much. Red Alert 2 is one of my favourite RTS games of all time. I love what they did compared to the first game. Like, the first game, the teams are different. Second game, the teams are very different. Very different units, play very differently. The fact that you have harvesters that can teleport, harvesters with guns on them. The Soviet stuff is very powerful, very like heavy, like hitting stuff. You've got nukes, you've got the Iron Curtain, whereas the Allies have got like a Weatherstorm device, they've got the Chronosphere, all about movement, versus like you've got Apocalypse tanks, which are just awesome. Like, really good game, still looks really good today. Actually fairly challenging, but not too bad. I completed both the campaigns. Amazing FMV cutscenes in that game. The expansion, Yuri's Revenge, is even better. More, like, you get new units, you get a new faction in Yuri, which is so, like, B-movie as hell. You've got, like, UFOs and, like, robotic tanks and all that sort of stuff. Really, really, really fun. Love what they did with the expansion on this. And this is, by far, still one of the best Command & Conquer games ever made. Like, Red Alert is just so good. And on top of that, I'm actually going to stick Red Alert 3 up here. Now, I know a lot of people think differently, but I think Red Alert 3 is definitely up there as one of my favourite RTS games of all time. Simply because I love, again, they made all 3 of the factions ridiculous. They really went crazy hammy with it. They've got amazing actors to come in and ham it up. Like, Tim Curry is amazing, and this is the premiere, and it is amazing. You've got all these big famous actors in it. The story mode's really, really fun. Again, the factions play even more different to one another. Like, if you play as the Allies, you're very like air focused. You have like all these. Each unit has a secondary ability, which gives extra variety to all the units. Soviets, very, very kind of cheap. They've got like cheap infantry, like more expensive tanks, and like, again, really cool abilities for each of them. You can get like bears, and you can shoot things out of a cannon, like that stuff. And then you've got the Japanese team, who are very high tech, and then like things can transform between different modes. The expansion added primarily single player content. It added 4 new campaigns. One where you play as Rumiko, I can't forget her name, but the lady on the front there. And you also get you have this map of the world, and you're doing these different missions, like kind of like a commander's challenge. Really, really solid, actually. Like, I know people didn't like Red Alert as much because it kind of dumbed down some of the mining mechanics, and it also focused a lot more on naval. But honestly, like, I love these games. I think they're great. I wish the expansion had multiplayer, but unfortunately not. But yeah, I love this game. I think the Command & Conquer, the Red Alert series is definitely there. Like, Command & Conquer 3, great. Red Alert 2 and 3, fantastic games. Dawn of War 2, where are we going to put you? You know what? I'm going to stick you all together there. I do think Dawn of War 2 is fun. The difference being, this is one of the few RTSs on there that isn't about base building. I liked Dawn of War 2. I've never played Dawn of War 3. Well, it didn't really interest me. But what was good about the first game was you build up, you level up your commanders, all the stuff, but you're still using the tactics. You're micromanaging, basically. The expansion was really cool. It added the other faction on, but it also added new mechanics, added extra content. And Retribution was pretty good, and it let you play as the other characters, but all 3 of them, I like the gameplay, basically. I like the gameplay. But what makes it not amazing is the fact that the only base building you do is in multiplayer. It's not like Dawn of War 1. That's why Dawn of War 1 it's higher for the most part, because I think that's just a better RTS game. This was more like Company of Heroes, I believe. They're not bad games by any means. It's just, if you like the base building aspect of these games, then these are not for you. I wish they were better than they are, but the story itself is actually pretty well written, especially for the first game. Second game also. There's some interesting stuff, because you play as the Space Marines in these 2, and in Retribution you can play as the other factions, but it's best to play as the Space Marines because you get a continuation of what happened in these first 2 games. If you like RTS games that are about micromanagement and you like leveling up units, then it's good for you. But if you like base building, you ain't going to find it here, unfortunately. You're going to get maybe turrets you can put down, that's about it. It's also really hard. The game's really, really difficult, so enjoy that. Supreme Commander 2! You know what? I'm a bit more lenient on it than some people. It's not as good as Supreme Commander, but I still like it. There's some things about it that are a little bit dumbed down, but it's a bit more of a faster paced version of Supreme Commander, to be honest. If you want a game that's not as crazy tech-wise and a little bit more streamlined, then Supreme Commander 2 is pretty good. More just for skirmishing. I kind of find that fun. I'm not that bothered by it, but again, has that crazy amounts of like units slamming into each other, and it's just like I said, the more streamlined version of it. Like, I definitely have fun with it. I can see why people prefer the first game. People like their games being not like overly complex, but like, you know, a decent amount of complexity and a lot of, you know, you can figure out how you want to do builds. Supreme Commander 2 takes some of that away, but I still like what you can do. You can like your mech suit. Excuse me, your mech suit. You can kind of add bits and bobs to. There are some cool things you can do with it. There are definitely cool ideas in this game. It's just not up there as some of the better RTS games than the first ones. Generally better to play. So if you want the streamlined experience, play Supreme Commander 2. Total Annihilation, I'm going to put that under great RTS. I think Supreme Commander is a better version of Total Annihilation. This also includes the expansion packs. I like Total Annihilation. I think it's really cool. There is so much content in that game. There are tons of different units. It's basically what Supreme Commander is, like the spiritual successor to it. They play very similar. It's just this one's just newer and got a few more modern mechanics to it, but you can't go wrong with Total Annihilation. You've got these two different armies fighting each other. Most of the units are very similar, but you get different things. You have ones with like machine guns, ones with rockets, one with missiles, artillery, lasers. You've got different types of artillery, like in turrets and things you can build. Uses that system of, you know, you have energy and you have metal, and as long as you're gaining more of those, you can build tons of things. There's just a lot you can build. There's a lot of variety in it. Some of the stuff takes forever to build. Like, it is again, it's more of a slower RTS, but you do have these ginormous battles, and you can get massive air armies and huge fleets of boats. Like, oh, it's so good. Doesn't quite hit the levels of some of these other games for me, but like, if you can get Total Annihilation, which on GOG you can get it pretty cheap, there's a complete pack. Definitely worth it. By the way, I did play Total Annihilation Kingdoms. Don't really like it as much. I don't think it's a bad game, but I didn't bother putting it on this list. Right, StarCraft. I'm going to put all the expansions up here. I think this is pretty obvious. This has to be one of my favourite RTS games of all time. And it is. I will say, I definitely prefer Command & Conquer's Red Alert series to StarCraft, but that's not to say, that's not a slight against StarCraft in the fact that you may think. I prefer the way that Command & Conquer works, where you always have the tabs on the right hand side, so you don't always have to go back to the buildings or hotkey the buildings. You can build, you can basically access everything there. Like, they're my favourite franchises for RTS games were always StarCraft and always Command & Conquer. They do things differently, but I think the Command & Conquer games are just a little bit easier to play. StarCraft 2 is a hard game, but what StarCraft 2 does, and with all three of the expansions, has some of the best single player campaigns I've ever had. If I had to order these properly, it would be this way around. Wings of Liberty, I'm a Terran player. I love Wings of Liberty. I love the way that you're trying to like fight against the Menkskin, I forgot what the Dominion. And I love the way that you can edit and level up your units. You get tons of upgrades and stuff throughout the single player. Really, really fun. The Protoss one is also really fun to do that when you get like tons of upgrades. I'm just not a Zerg player. I actually like the story, and a lot of people are like, oh, the story's a bit rubbish. And there are definitely its low points, but generally the cutscenes and the story are a lot of fun. You get to see all kinds of things happen. Really solid game. Probably the most played RTS still now at the moment. Got a fantastic pro scene as well, but as a single player RTS, really good. I do think it's a bit harder to play than, like I said, Red Alert and 1 and 2 and 3. But you're not going to go wrong with these games. They're awesome. Again, none of this is ordered, by the way. These are just the RTS games I would recommend over anything else. These, then these, then these, then not these, and definitely not these. Like I said, there's some interesting things with these ones, but honestly, this, and this, I would recommend most of these when these are cheap. These could be full price or cheap for, like, they're solid games. But yeah, StarCraft 2, fantastic. Definitely go and play that. We're left with Emperor and Generals. Let's put the expansions in. Let's put you in here. The only reason I don't think Generals is amazing, like, up here, is simply because I hate the fact that it's so generic. Like, the gameplay is really good, but the theming compared to the other Command & Conquer games is no, like, the GDI nod stuff's really good, the old World War II stuff's really cool, very hammy. Generals is just like meant to be modern day kind of game, and it's like there is good gameplay here, and all three of the factions are great. The only thing I would say, if you go back and play Generals, be aware that it's very much of its time. I don't think this is a game that's going to get re-released anytime soon, because there's a lot of stuff in this game that may be considered a bit on the edge of being offensive. Simply that you have the GLA and the Chinese. You have the Americans, the GLA, and the Chinese. Those are the 3 different teams, but I feel like they might want to go back and re-record some of the voice lines. As a game, solid gameplay. Definitely, I hated it when I first played it. I was like, oh, this is terrible. This is nowhere near as good as the other ones. But actually, it's a very, very good game. Would recommend that to play. If you played the other ones, these ones, definitely go and check those out. The expansion is also really good. Adds a ton of content. Commander's Challenge is one of the best things in the RTS. Lastly, Emperor Battle for Dune. Probably my favourite RTS game of all time. Again, I love the Dune aesthetic. Gameplay-wise, it's very similar to Red Alert 2, more 3D. Graphically, it needs an overhaul, but I like that you've got the Atreides, the Harkonnen, and the Ordos, and there are basically no overlapping units. Each of the teams plays very different. Atreides very heavy on the infantry. You can level them up that way. Harkonnen is everything's a bit more expensive, but you have the best armor, really hard hitting. You've got an Inkvine catapult. You've got a catapult, which is crazy. You've got an air defense platform, which is awesome. Like very crazy cool unit design. And then you've got Ordos, which are very sneaky, has lasers, has shields. Interesting units, basically. Like all 3 of the teams played doing it. Fucking phenomenal soundtrack as well. If I had to put them in order, I think Battle for Dune is probably my favourite RTS, followed by Red Alert 3, followed by StarCraft 2, in that order. Just because I prefer kind of the Westwood style of RTS games, but the Blizzard StarCraft... This is the difference between StarCraft and StarCraft 2 for me. This is just how much better StarCraft 2 is than the first one. All these games at the top here, though, I would recommend, I think, are very playable now, very modernised, very, very fun games. The next ones down are all really solid games. I just think if you've got a choice between these and these are the games you're definitely going to pick over these ones. These fun games all have their charms, but they're not amazing and have maybe issues that don't make them as fun. Original Command & Conquer is very hard to go back to. Tiberian Sun's very slow. Soulstorm feels very unbalanced. Grey Goo is very iffy depending on who you play. StarCraft has pathing issues and other things, but story-wise great. Aatrox, slightly better than StarCraft, but doesn't have the story. Crusader, not great. Dawn of War games, it doesn't build no base building, and Supreme Commander 2 is more streamlined. There you go, that is a selection of there. There are other RTS games I can obviously play. If we go down here, what have we got? Act of War, I think I played maybe that once. World War 3 obviously I've taken off because I can't remember. Planetary Annihilation is another game I have played, but it's been a while. I can't really remember. I remember you're fighting on planets. It's fun, but it definitely feels like it's a bit lifeless. Nothing really has very uniqueness about it. We've got some of the expansion packs which I talked about. Age of Empires obviously on here. They're not amazingly fun for me personally. They're Stronghold Legends. Played it once, remastered. I'm not even going to talk about that. Anything else on here that I may have played? Company of Heroes is a game I know a lot of people play. I never played it. Cossacks, I did play one of them a long time ago. The Earth games, I've got all of these I think, but couldn't say. Homeworld, I've got Homeworld remastered and never played it. Halo Wars apparently is really good. Never played it. Impossible Creatures I never played but did watch. Kind of fun. Northgard, interesting. Anything else on here? There's the original Warcraft. Universal War I did have at one point. I don't know if I still got it. Didn't like it. I played the tutorial, just didn't like it. Ruse never played. So there's a ton of... This isn't every RTS game, but there's a ton on here that stuff I haven't... Battlefleet Gothic, Armada. I wished I liked it more. Kind of... It's alright. But yeah, generally speaking, there's a lot of stuff on here that I haven't played, but these games... These top 3, these are all games I'd recommend going and playing with the expansions. They're actually decent. These ones less so, but these 2 top ones are awesome. So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching this long-winded video about RTS games. I love RTS games. I wish we got more stuff in this style. It's a genre I want to see come back. We do see games now and then coming back. We've just had Command & Conquer remastered, but... You know, I really do hope we get a new Command & Conquer at some point. I really hope we get more RTS games coming back to PC because I really, really, really like them. But thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, go and subscribe. Links for Facebook and Twitter down below. And until next video, I will see you then.